You know that feeling, right? That kind of frustration when you're trying to learn a new language, especially English.
Oh, yeah.
It feels like you're just stuck, like endless vocabulary lists that just won't stick in your head.
Or you just can't find the time, right,
Mm.
to practice in a way that feels, well, real.
Exactly. You're searching for that shortcut, maybe, that moment where it all
But
clicks.
you keep hitting that wall.
Well, today we're doing a deep dive into something our sources are calling a real catalyst, a game changer even, for getting fluent in English.
And that's the power of short stories.
Yeah, short stories.
So our mission today really is to unpack why. Why are short stories such a, well, transformative tool for learning a language?
We want to show you how they actually translate into real improvements for your English.
And, maybe most importantly, we'll lay out a clear step-by-step method, how to use them effectively.
Right, and this is all based on expert insights we've looked at.
Absolutely. This isn't really about studying harder.
Yeah.
It's about studying smarter, finding that structured path that leads you to those aha moments.
Okay, let's get into it then. What makes short stories so powerful? Our sources call them easy to digest, but full of rich learning. What's behind that?
Well, what's really fascinating, and what our sources dig into, is how stories kind of tap directly into how our brains naturally work.
Oh,
First off, they're short and sweet,
yeah.
unlike a big, intimidating novel.
Right, you can actually finish one.
Exactly. You can usually get through a short story in one sitting. And that quick win, it's not just like a nice feeling.
Right.
No, it builds this sense of accomplishment. And that feeling is so important for keeping you motivated when you're learning anything long term.
That makes sense. Keep the momentum going.
Yeah. And then there's the language itself. Short stories tend to use everyday language.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking natural dialogue, common phrases, situations you might actually encounter. It's practical stuff.
Not textbook examples that sound a bit stiff.
Precisely. And this helps you remember things better. Because fundamentally, our brains are wired for stories, for narrative.
Okay, how does that work?
Well, think about it. When you learn a word like, say, serendipity
Mhm.
inside a story, maybe about a character's unexpected lucky find,
Uh-huh.
your brain links that word to the emotion, the context, the character's journey. It activates your episodic memory.
Ah, so it's stickier than just a word on a list.
Way stickier. It's
Huh.
more like how kids naturally pick up their first language. It's embedded.
Right.
They also build context almost automatically. New words pop up naturally within the story.
So you're not just seeing isolated words.
Exactly. Imagine you come across a word like quell. If the sentence is something like, her calm voice helped quell the rising tension, you get the meaning instantly from the situation.
You figure it out without necessarily running for a dictionary right away.
You build that intuition. And maybe the biggest thing, they are fun.
That sounds simple, but it's huge, isn't it?
It's absolutely critical. When learning feels enjoyable, not like a chore, you're less anxious, more engaged.
And much more likely to keep doing it.
Definitely. It makes the whole process sustainable.
That enjoyment factor really is key. And, one thing our sources kept highlighting, almost like a golden rule, especially for beginners, is choosing stories that actually match your current level. I tried reading, like Chaucer, way too early. Total disaster.
Oh yeah, common mistake. Our sources really stress this. If you're just starting, you need basic language.
Simple stuff,
And for intermediate,
maybe classic fairy tales or simpler modern stories. They're familiar, often, and the language is manageable.
and advanced learners.
That's where you can tackle stories with, complex plots, twists, maybe deeper themes or moral questions. They give you that challenge you need.
So getting that level right is crucial for actually enjoying it and learning effectively.
It makes a massive difference to your progress and, frankly, whether you stick with it. Okay, so that covers the why they're so powerful. But the next question, and this is where it gets really interesting for you listening.
Right.
How does all this translate into actual real-world improvements in your English?
Well, when you connect these ideas, the impact is pretty significant. First, stories teach you real conversation
How so?
because you're exposed to authentic dialogue. You hear how people actually talk, including, slang, idioms, the tone of voice, things crucial for actually communicating.
Things you don't always get in formal lessons.
Exactly. Second, you build vocabulary fast because you see new words again and again in a story you care about. You start to naturally guess the meaning from the context. It builds that intuitive feel for words, sometimes even before you look them up.
Less reliance on the dictionary all the time.
Right. Third, and this is a big one for a lot of learners, you improve grammar without pain.
Without pain. Sounds good.
Well, instead of memorizing abstract rules, you see grammar in action, in natural sentences.
Like absorbing it.
Yeah, our sources call it implicit learning. You absorb the patterns subconsciously just by reading. It's more like how you learned your first language.
So you start to feel what sounds right.
Precisely. Much more effective long-term than just reciting rules. Fourth, you improve listening and speaking.
How does reading help with speaking?
Our sources strongly suggest reading aloud. Practice the sounds, the rhythm. Even better, find an audio version of the story.
Oh, like an audiobook.
Exactly. Listen while you read along. It trains your ear for natural English speed, intonation, how sentences flow.
Gets you used to the sound of it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And finally, number 5, you feel motivated. Finishing a story, even a short one, gives you that little boost.
That sense of accomplishment we talked about.
That consistent feeling of, I did it. It really fuels you to keep going day after day.
That psychological boost is so important, isn't it? Often gets overlooked.
It's huge for staying committed.
And practically speaking, something our sources recommended. Keep a notebook handy when you read.
Good tip.
Maybe jot down, say, 5 new words, 2 interesting phrases, maybe 1 grammar structure you notice, and then actually look at them again at the end of the week.
That turns passive reading into active learning. Really helps cement it.
Okay, so we've got the why and the what the benefits, but the really deep dive question is the how.
Right.
How do you actually use short stories to really accelerate your fluency? Because, as one expert said, just reading isn't always enough.
That's a great point. It's about the method, how you approach it. Our sources lay out about 6 key steps.
Okay, let's break them down. Step 1.
Step 1, choose the right story. We touched on this, but it's vital. Pick something you're interested in, and crucially, at your level. Don't make it frustrating from the start.
Makes sense. Step 2.
Read it first, without stopping. Just read it through once. The goal is just to get the main idea, the gist of the story. Try not to stop and look up every word.
Just get the flow.
Exactly. Let the story pull you along.
Okay. Step 3.
Read again, slowly. Now go back. This time, you can underline words you don't know. Try to guess the meaning from the context first. Then you can check if you need to.
Be more analytical the second time.
Right. Step 4, read out loud. Actually say the word. This is where you practice pronunciation, rhythm, stress, intonation. Really try to mimic the sounds.
Makes you engage differently with the text.
Totally. Then step 5, listen to the audio. If you can find an audio version, listen to it, maybe while following along in the text again.
Reinforces the connection between written and spoken English.
It really develops your ear. And finally, step 6, retell the story.
Retell it out loud.
Yeah. Try to summarize it in your own words. Maybe tell it to a friend or just talk it through yourself. This is huge for boosting your active speaking skills and making sure you've really absorbed it.
That sounds like a really solid plan. 6 clear steps.
It covers reading, listening, speaking, vocabulary, grammar, the whole package.
And another good tip from the sources, to take it even further, think about joining a reading club.
Oh, yeah.
Or just get together with friends who are also learning. You can talk about the stories, share what you learned, practice retelling them.
Makes it social, adds accountability. Great idea.
So let's step back for a second. We've talked about the language mechanics, but what about the deeper impact beyond just learning English words and grammar?
Yeah, this is where it gets really profound, I think. Stories, fundamentally, don't just teach language. They teach life.
What do you mean by that?
Well, when you read stories from different cultures, different perspectives, you inevitably grow as a person. You start to understand different ways people think, feel, live across the globe.
Broadens your horizons.
Absolutely. It helps you build empathy. You step into someone else's shoes for a little while. You might learn courage from a character's struggle or get inspired to do better yourself.
So it connects learning English to, well, being human.
Exactly. It reinforces that idea of English not just being a school subject, but a bridge to human connection, a window into countless other lives and experiences. And ultimately, this whole approach, it helps you stop seeing English as hard.
Because it's enjoyable.
Yeah, it fosters enjoyment, builds real confidence because you're actually understanding and using the language.
Yeah.
It keeps you motivated.
Yeah.
And all of that leads naturally, organically, to fluency.
It turns it into an adventure, not just homework.
That's a perfect way to put it.
That link to personal growth is really powerful. And one last practical idea from our sources. Consider keeping a reading journal.
Okay.
After you finish a story, just jot down a few thoughts, like, what was the lesson here? Or what did I feel while reading this? And what did I learn? Not just words, but ideas.
Helps you process it on a deeper level, makes it stick even more.
Definitely.
It's important to remember, fluency isn't really about being perfect.
Yeah.
It's never about perfection.
Yeah.
It's about progress. Consistent progress. Every single story you read, every word you figure out, every sentence you try to say out loud,
It all adds up.
it all adds up. It builds this amazing mosaic of understanding and ability over time.
So the takeaway here isn't just study harder. It's about finding a smarter way, a more engaging way.
And short stories offer exactly that. They're one of the most effective and honestly enjoyable ways to really boost your English fluency.
So what are you waiting for? Our challenge to you is grab a short story today. Find one that looks interesting at your level.
Dive in. Use those steps we talked about.
Immerse yourself in it, learn from it, and really, truly enjoy it.
Because learning English, your journey, it doesn't have to be boring or feel like a constant struggle.
It can be fun, it can be powerful.
And it can actually be life-changing.
So start now. See how it transforms your whole learning experience.